If you've followed this channel for a while, or if you simply possess the thing known as common sense, you'd know that the quality of an anime depends almost entirely on the staff involved and the time allotted to them. Demon Slayer looks good not because of unlimited budget works, but because Studio Ufotable houses a strong in-house culture and features the best digital team in the entire industry. Chainsaw Man looked good not because Le Mappa Le Goat, but because it featured a veritable who's who of industry legends and promising young talent. Mob Psycho looked good not because the studio didn't spend money on eye and hair detail, but because it featured a healthy production and a plethora of competent people in charge. Point is, staff matters more than anything else in my opinion. With all that in mind, imagine a show helmed by both Cowboy Bebop director Shinichiro Watanabe and John Wick director Chad Stahelski that features a relatively healthy production backed by corporate giants like Cartoon Network, Studio Mappa, and to an extent Studio Bones, and boasts a long list of incredibly talented animators, including but not limited to animation extraordinaires Hiroyuki Aoyama, Takafumi Hori, and Gosei Oda. Imagine how good a show like that would look, how competent it would be at a technical level. Well, you don't have to imagine anything, that exact show exists, and it's what this video is all about. Lazarus, the newest offering from all the names and companies I just mentioned, is one of the coolest, most stylish shows I've seen in a while. It's a topical, exciting, and fun to watch show that looks really f***ing good. As such, let's talk about it. You know what else is cool, stylish, topical, fun to watch, and looks really f***ing good? The subscribe button when pressed. So go down there, minimize the video, I'll wait. Go down there and press the subscribe button. Now, this video isn't exactly an animation breakdown. I will talk about the visuals, especially the action, but I'll talk about the story and stuff as well. First things first though, the action. It's so immensely cool. Look at this, it's like Cowboy Bebop on LSD. I've covered the first episode of this show in detail before, so I'll talk about the rest of it here, which is a good thing because as some of you might know, the first episode was actually produced differently than the rest. I've talked about this before. John Wick director Chad Stahelski and his team at 8711 Action Design joined this project from episode 2 onwards. The action in episode 1 was actually handled by two other people, Hiromitsu Seki and Gosei Oda. They storyboarded the prison scene and parkour sequence respectively. Chad and his team joined this project from episode 2 onwards, and according to director Shinichiro Watanabe, their presence was so influential that their style seeped into the episodes they weren't even involved with. So how did this whole thing work? How did this American company based in the US fit into the production pipeline of this Japanese anime? Well, let's go through the process. According to Watanabe, Chad and his team filmed high-quality live-action footage with multi-camera setups and stuntmen. They were actually nice enough to release some of this footage on social media. I'm not entirely sure if these scenes were based entirely on the storyboards or if Chad and his team added their own inputs to the choreography, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's the latter, especially because a couple of episodes featured an additional action storyboard artist, Todd Harris, who sounds American. Anyway, this footage was then used by the animation team as reference to draw the final version, which by the way is not the same thing as drawing over them, aka rotoscopy, and I think this whole thing is incredibly cool. The action understandably resembles Hollywood movies instead of anime, and that's a novel look. I'm not saying Hollywood-esque action is inherently superior to anime, absolutely not, quite the opposite actually. That's not what makes Lazarus so interesting to look at. It's just the way the action structure and design in this anime looks so different from what you usually see, and that this look is executed nearly flawlessly. More about that in a bit. These long chains of endearingly over-the-top close quarters combat, the intricate choreography, a sense of impact that's novel and unique. It looks different, of course in the best possible way. I saw some people taking issue with this approach, presumably because they have a drawing first mentality, but to them I say 1, it looks really f***ing cool, so who cares, and 2, action scenes in anime often use live action reference anyway. What's wrong with them going through the effort to create footage specifically catered to the show in question? Of course, 2D animators, especially the ones involved with this show, are more than capable of creating lively, bouncy action scenes without this live action step. Just look at the first episode of this very show. But this is such a fun, out there way of going about it. I love it. Now, I know what you're thinking. The animators must have it easy, right? All they have to do is trace over this well-lit high-def live-action footage. No, it's really not that simple. The technique of tracing over live action footage is called rotoscopy, and this show didn't use any of it at any point. The footage was heavily referenced, yes, it was created with that exact purpose in mind, but it wasn't traced over. In fact, you can see some of the timing and composition being different in the final hand-drawn version. Also, a lot of time and effort has clearly gone into the 2D component of this show. If the process was as simple as them drawing over live action footage with no added input, they wouldn't require legendary names like Hiroyuki Aoyama and Takafumi Hori as action animators. There's a lot more to it, and thank the Lord for that. You see, using live action material to such a large extent can be a slippery slope. It's very easy for the animation team to become overly reliant on the timing and compositions of the live action material, and if that happens, the final version will look monotonous and robotic. When it comes to timing and impact, anime has the inherent advantage of the frames and their placements being versatile. You can pay off an attack right now, or you can add several frames of build-up for added impact. The choice lies entirely with you, the animator. Strictly adhering to the timing of live action material can suppress this creative freedom, leading to the final product looking stiff and robotic. Thankfully, that's not the case with Lazarus. For the most part, episode 2 did have some of those issues, but the rest of it was great. Episode 3 featured some incredibly smooth, well-choreographed action drawn by Hirokazu Kojima and Takafumi Hori. The exchanges were slick, bouncy, and fun to look at, and the animation ability put on display was mind-blowing. The line placements, the volume control, the timing, everything was so wonderfully well executed. Again, it's simply stylish and fun. Look at the way Axel, that's his name by the way, I kept calling him Alex in my previous video for some reason. The way Axel disarms this guy, it's so bouncy and fun to look at. Episode 4 was easily the best looking episode so far. It was storyboarded by the Ghibli affiliated Akihiko Yamashita, directed by Kazui Miyake, and featured a nearly solo animation direction effort by Hiroyuki Aoyama, and it looked phenomenal. The plethora of smooth, lively movement, the immaculate aesthetic, the color use courtesy of the image boards made by Yo Moriyama, the fantastic action choreography and animation, it was so good. The action scenes featured those long, cool looking exchanges I was talking about near the start of this video. Look at this, or this, or this, and now look into my eyes and tell me that's not the coolest thing you've ever seen. It's so much fun. Aoyama handled a Herculean amount of animation and correction work for this episode, and it showed. Again, the movement was so good. Episode 5 was relatively laid back, but it did feature a cool little action scene. This elevator fight was interesting, let's put it that way. By the way, this episode actually featured a Japanese action storyboard artist in Etsuko Kawano, who also presumably animated the entire thing. Speaking of which, the timing throughout this fight was weird. Relying on large spaces between poses, a noticeable lack of movement in certain areas, and a rampant overuse of motion blurring, it looked somewhat jarring at times. It's a shame because the fight did contain fantastic drawings, it's just that the spacing looks off. The jumpy timing wasn't the most pleasing thing to look at. Of course, an animator can use timing like this to their advantage, but to do so, they need to structure each pose accordingly, and I don't think this fight handled that aspect well. I'm fairly certain that it's a stylistic choice because again, the drawings did look fantastic. I don't think that would have been the case if the fight was strapped for time, so the fault lies with the execution. Besides the action, the show features a decent, well-constructed look, although the background side of things do tend to fall apart every once in a while. Perhaps due to a combination of ambitious camera work, complex intermixing of 2D and 3D background assets, and the length of some of these shots. Still, all things considered, it's a great looking show. Make no mistake though, it's not just the visuals that are stylish, everything about this project, be it the music use, the general aesthetic, the story, the topical nature of it, everything about it is simply cool, which is just classic Shinichiro Watanabe. While we're on that topic, let's talk for a second about the story or the writing as a whole. Let's see, how should I go about this? Lazarus is fine. There's nothing earth-shattering about it, yet. The setting is quite cool. The futuristic vibe is interesting, the characters are likable for the most part, and the premise is serviceable. I love how topical the show is and how that aspect doesn't feel forced. It makes sense for someone trying to disappear to have a crypto wallet because cryptocurrency isn't regulated by governments, and it makes sense for said wallets to be traceable. That's a real thing, just look at any CoffeeZilla video. Also look, they have SoundCloud in this universe, not a spoof, the actual thing. That's just an average Death Grip song. The modernity feels fresh, it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel like the author going hello fellow kids. For the most part. The story does have plenty of issues. First and foremost, the tone. The world is about to end in 30 days, pretty much every human ever is going to die. Those are massive stakes, but despite that, the tone feels so laid back. It's not a frantic race against time. The characters are just hanging out, they are joking around trying to find clues, it feels unnatural. I get that they, at this point in the story, don't entirely buy what Skinner said, but they are clearly acting on his words. Would it kill them to be a bit more desperate? Oh, literally everybody out there will die in 21 days? Anyway, check out this backflip. You get my point, right? It feels tone deaf. I can understand the masses going about their days as per usual. They probably don't believe what Skinner said, but these guys clearly do. Why don't they act like it? Besides that, the story structure is a bit repetitive, although I've never been a fan of fetch quests, so it might just be me. I get what they were going for. It makes sense for the characters to not immediately stumble upon relevant leads. That's too convenient. It's better if they fail a couple of times, it makes things feel more real. But surely there are more interesting ways of going about that than go to cool looking setting, do thing, come up with nothing and repeat. I will say this though, episode 5 was fantastic. Unlike the other 4, this was genuinely exciting. Stuff happened, they found actual relevant clues that went somewhere. The events had actual real stakes, they didn't just lead to comedic gags. It was great. If the show continues to go down this road, I can see myself enjoying it a lot more than I am now. Also, I hope it ends on a compelling note. I hope it's not just Skinner going, I did this because humans are bad and lazy. I hope it's more than that. And that should just about do it. I just wanted to talk about Lazarus a bit more because to me, it's the most interesting thing currently airing. I know it's not the best thing in the world, especially in terms of writing, but I can see it turning into something special if it plays its cards right. Fingers crossed. That's about it. Like the video, check out this other bit of content on screen, like and subscribe, and until next time.